What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to a long-awaited Coast to Coast podcast. It's been a while. NFL season's rolling, but we got another season coming up that we are just as excited to talk about. NBA will be back next week at the time
hmm
we're recording, and we're here with the one and only Suns fan, Griffin Winter.
What's
But
up? How we doing?
frequent guests of the pod to hop on and talk a little bit. Griffin, how excited are you for this season?
This is probably the most I've been excited for an NBA season probably in my life. I'm expecting big things from my team. I'm expecting big storylines, so I'm very excited. Let's
I
hop into
know
it.
we still have drama. James Harden, is he going to be traded? Apparently, he's in Houston right now.
hmm
You know what he's doing out in Houston, boys. We all know.
We
But
already know.
speaking of, teams with crazy storylines, we want to break down our top four seeds for each conference, starting in the Eastern Conference. We're gonna get straight away with it. Obviously, Damian Lillard, the massive trade this summer, going to the Bucks. Everyone thought it was gonna be the Heat. Then Cronin's like, "Eff it, I'm sending him to Milwaukee." Gets basically Drew Holiday, who they end up trading for Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon. They get DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns, who gets involved in that deal. And yeah, so the East a little bit shaken up. Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday are now new members of the Boston Celtics. Marcus Smart's out the door. It's a lot of turnover going on, but we got our top teams, and it seems like Griffin's got the Celtics at one. Griffin, a little bit of Boston.
Yeah, basically everything you said. They added two really good pieces. Kristaps Porzingis probably coming off the best season of his career in Washington, joining forces with Jason Tatum and all the boys in Boston. I think it'll be interesting. If Jalen Brown, we've seen some videos of him at Celtics practice, not really, being in his bag with the left hand, which was kind of their Achilles heel last season. So if they run into the Heat, but I do think they will be the one seed in the East. I think it's probably a pretty easy over two as well. I think Drew Holiday is a spectacular addition, and the backcourt of him and Derek White is going to be a real defensive force to be reckoned with in the East. So I have them at one right now. If you want to add anything onto the Celtics, I think they kind of speak for themselves. Why don't you have them at one? Just a little spoiler for the viewers at home.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking about this with my boys. A lot of them are big Boston fans. I think it comes down to, is Al Horford really going to be what he was last year? He shot like 44 from three. He was so crucial at such an old age. I mean, like, no disrespect, Al Horford, but no one's expecting you to be playing up the lat level going
No.
into this coming season. Al Horford, he's going to be 37 years old at the start of the season, and he just turned 37 this summer, this offseason. It's going to be hard to get that much value out of him again, but we'll see. I think that's the determining factor of the longevity because, Robert Williams is gone. It's Luke Cornett, Kristaps Porzingis, and Al Horford out there as the big men. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they, be able to sustain health. I think
There's
Jake,
definitely a health issue there with them.
yeah, and Drew Holiday, he's going to be a fourth option now. He's not really going to be asked to be doing too much offensively. I love Derek White, still one of the best role guys in the league, and rightfully so. Interesting with Peyton Pritchard though. They gave him I think $30 million over 4 years.
hmm
So he didn't really play much last year. It's going to be interesting to see now
I
stepping
mean,
into that point
I
guard.
not sorry not to step on your toes, but I feel like he was pretty decent last year for the time. He was just like that bench last year was so deep. Now that they're kind of showing off the guys that they've drafted in the past couple of years and like the late first, second rounders, like are actually going to play this year. It'll be interesting, but for sure the depth issue, I think they do have an issue there, and the injury luck could not be great. And I think Jason Tatum does need, even though, he's consensus top 10 player in the NBA bare minimum, like, I still think he probably needs to go up a level with some of his shot decisions for them to be able to be like the true favorite in the NBA.
Yeah, but no, I don't have Boston at two. I think the regular season Eastern Conference champions are going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. I feel like this is a young team that's been waiting to explode. They did well last season, but I think now another year of Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland. I think Max Strus was a big get for them this offseason. They might have
Mhm.
paid a little bit too much for him, but I think he's going to fill into that role at the three. He's a guy that can just shoot, and that's really all they need. He's not a great defender, but that's what they have Isaac Okoro for. They also have Karis LeVert still, and you know Georges Niang, who's a good role playing big as well, who can play on the wing. But Evan Mobley is going to be a monster. I think this team is going to excel in the regular season, which is later reflected in my awards. Griffin, for your number 2 team, you have the Kings of the blockbuster trade this summer. It's the Milwaukee Bucks. Talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, I mean Giannis and Dame. Like, what is there to say about that duo? That's one of the best duos in the league. Probably up there with D-Book and Katie, but they do very different things, and I think that complements each other very well. The guys in Phoenix, they do kind of have a semi-similar skill set. These guys have completely different skill sets, are at the top of their game for both in their respective fields. I think it's going to be like an amazing dynamic duo. My issues kind of lie with them again, similar to a lot of these teams at the top that are kind of top heavy. I think depth is going to be an issue. I think Grayson Allen was fairly good for them. He started for them, and now he's not going to be on the team. Drew Holiday, what does that mean? Losing Drew Holiday, what does that mean for their defense? Can guys like Jay Crowder step up? Like they're really going to need their bench pieces to step up. So we'll see, but I am high on them, and I think bare minimum that duo is enough to propel them to a top 3 seed in the East, like bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean, they lose a lot of perimeter defense. Malik Beasley, Pat Connaughton, Marjan Beauchamp, some wings that are going to be getting a lot of play there for them.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Payne was a point guard sign that they got, I think, earlier this past week. Should be a good option. That's Damian Lillard, play style esque in terms of an offensive, first point guard.
Yeah.
So that was see, and they still have Bobby Portis, who is easily one of the
Mm-hmm.
best backups in the league.
Team
But can Brooke
USA's
Lopez,
Portis.
now Team USA Bobby Portis, but can Brooke Lopez, who is now going into his age 35 season, continue to produce? If they make the playoffs, to be 36 years old. It's an Al Horford situation as well over there because they're down to just Bobby Portis. It's gonna be tough because he is so valuable to their team as well. Brooke Lopez
I
is.
also feel like, yeah, going off of that, I feel like Chris Middleton also has to kind of return to the NBA Finals form that he was in. I don't feel like last year after he got injured, he didn't come back completely 100%. So I think for this team to really succeed and win a championship, they need Chris Middleton to also step up once again. And I think Dame will help with that, but it is a concern a little bit that he could not return to that.
Yeah, most definitely. And then I had the Celtics at 2. I had the Bucks at 3. Like I said, I think they might be more of a coasting team. They're gonna want guys like Dame and Chris Middleton and Brooke Lopez to be ready come playoff time. Griffin, you have the Cavs at 3. Any
Mhm.
additional thoughts to share from what I talked about? I mean, I'm honestly a lot higher on them than you are. What are your kind
Yeah,
of
I mean,
recommendations?
I understand your kind of rationale there, and I think Cleveland will probably care more about the regular season than teams like Boston or Milwaukee will, just because I feel like those teams are so geared for the playoffs that they're gonna try to and learn after, last year. Like teams I think that really like are contenders aren't really gonna care that much about the regular season this year, in my opinion. So I could see them being the 1 seed, like you said. And I like what they did, but I really think the key here is Evan Mobley. Can Evan Mobley really take an offensive leap? Because I think if he can learn, like if he can improve on offense even to like a minute degree, like really get kind of a 3-point shot consistent, that will be the key for them. And I think also it's important to see if him and Jarrett Allen can play together, like really confirm that because playoff time it kind of seemed not great for that environment. So I could see them making a move if they don't start off hot. You know what I'm saying? But I do like the Cavs a lot this year, and they are my 3 in the East.
And then at the 4, we both have different teams. You got the New York Knicks,
Mm-hmm.
and I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Two teams on some different interesting time tracks. So dive into New York for me. What do you think about them? Obviously Jalen Brunson broke out last season in New York, was way better than people expected him to be. What do you
Mhm.
see from the team
I mean,
next?
I see a lot of just like continuing off of the momentum that they had last year. I think Jalen Brunson is going to be key. I still really do like Julius Randle, especially in the regular season. And RJ Barrett has been consistently, I wouldn't like a top 75 player in the league, top maybe even fringe top 50. So I think he is solid. If they really do want to take the leap, it'll be through RJ Barrett, or I think they have enough pieces to make a trade this season. So that's I was kind of projecting a little bit there that even, if it doesn't, they don't start off great. They are a team who can make a move for a superstar. So we'll see. But I am high on the Knicks. I think bare minimum top five, top six seed in the East. And I just, yeah, in comparison to your team, which I have a lot of question marks about. So we'll kind of get
Yeah,
into that now. Liam
I
has the
think
76ers as his fourth seed.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, our top three are just interchangeable. It'd be interesting to see another team be in that top three. Something would
Yeah.
have to happen. I think maybe the Miami Heat are a team that could be up there, but there's a lot of stuff to see with how their role players are going to integrate.
Yeah.
Is Josh Richardson going to be a good fit there? What's Kyle Lowry going to look like in this season? Jaquez,
And
Jovic.
also, they don't really care about the regular season as we've
Yeah,
seen. They're built for the playoffs. Whether or not they're an 8 seed or a 6 seed or a 5 or whatever they are, I think they're still going to be dangerous. But I think Jimmy's going to coast in the regular season. Like I think we know that now. So
yeah,
that's why I didn't have them as high as
exactly. And
people might think of them.
And Tyler Hero, what's he going to look like this season?
Uh huh.
Yeah, so I got the Philadelphia 76ers. I understand there is nothing short of a lot of turmoil going on in that organization right now with James Harden. I can't imagine he'll be suiting up for them this year at all come the start of the season next week. So I'd imagine it'd be Patrick Beverly, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker, and Joel Embiid out there. I just think Joel Embiid is such a dominant regular season basketball player that I think he can carry this team to a top four seed. I expect Maxey, with the absence of James Harden, to be a near 24 point per game scorer. I think he can be lethal out there. Tobias Harris, even though he thinks he's an all-star, is far from it. I think he can still be a good scorer for this team. I like pieces they have off the bench: D'Anthony Melton, Kelly Oubre, Paul Reed. Maybe even Mo Bamba get some work in there. If and also Patrick Beverly, if he either is a starter or not, I think is a good guy to have on your team, especially with Embiid. I think those
Hmm.
two complement each other personality wise. But I'm not confident in this team at all come playoff time. I just think they are a good regular season team that can win basketball games. And Nick Nurse also there at head coach. I feel like he's also a guy that is going to be cohesive and help them win some regular season games. So that's the only reason why I have the 76ers at 4.
Yeah, I think your rationale is sound there, and I think maybe I kind of think maybe a little more negatively than I should on them, just because all the turmoil that's happening. I'm so low after the playoffs, just on a Joel Embiid in general. Like I think I was forgetting a little bit, who he is. He's the former MVP. He's the reigning MVP of the league. Like we have to put respect on his name like that. I just think it is it's such a difficult environment, I think, right now. And if they don't get anything really substantial back for James Harden, which it doesn't look like they will get something crazy, I don't see them being anything better than I don't see them breaking into the top three in the East. But let me just say that.
Yeah, not the top 3, but I can see them being that top 4.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I could see that.
let's move over to the West. I mean, we got our top 4s. Our 1 and 2s are flipped. But Griffin, you got the Nuggets at the number 1 seed. The reigning NBA champions.
Hmm.
Without Bruce Brown, who is one of their most impactful players. I mean, you learn that stuff when you come to a school like Miami. Shout out. But talk a little bit about the Nuggets, why you got them at 1, and what you expect to see out of them this year.
I mean, with a guy like Jokic, I expect 50 games, like 50 wins minimum. Like he is just such a floor elevator. I think that regardless of who is on the bench, and regardless who they lost, I think they'll still be all right. And I think we're forgetting that Jamal Murray was super rusty coming off like starting last year and having like a full season and the full playoffs under his belt, like actually being back and being a top 30 player in the league, along with guys like Aaron Gordon seemingly like playing in with Jokic for a year and Jamal Murray or Michael Porter Jr. having another year to develop. I think they're easily probably the favorites right now. Like they proved it, they are the best team, and I think it's up to everybody else to be able to be like, how are you going to top the Nuggets right now? I still, when it comes time to our finals picks, we'll see. I kind of disagree with them repeating, but right now I think they're far and away the best team in the West right now, at least in the collective consciousness.
Yeah, no. I mean, great points. Jokic and Murray are, they're a
Mm-hmm.
hard duo to stop. I want to keep seeing Michael Porter Jr. take step up, but it's hard for me to see them be that successful at the top without unless Christian Braun really becomes
I'm kind of high on their rookies and Christian Braun. Like I feel like
Julian
Julian Strother
Strother.
is going to be like a big piece for them, and I think they'll be. I don't think it's going to be that big of a loss for them, to be honest, with Bruce Brown not being there. I think it'll just be like a next man up type thing. It's not really a
Yeah.
concern of mine,
Uh-huh.
and I feel like
But
Jokic does elevate the role players super well. So.
yeah, he's a guy you want to play with.
Mhm.
And moving over for my number one team, I have the Phoenix Suns. I know Griffin's happy to hear that. They went over, they get Bradley Beal this offseason with a trade of getting rid of Chris Paul. And then they also get rid of DeAndre Ayton, sending him up the Portland for a use of Nurkic, who, is good when he's on the court, but emphasis on when he's on the court. I mean, he's a good player, but they need to see him, getting minutes out there. But this team on paper, I mean, you have three lethal scorers, and it'll get in my award predictions later. Devin Booker, I think, is going to be fantastic on this team. It looks like Kevin Durant is starting to take a step back in his career, which is good. He's on a team where Devin Booker can take, a bigger step. And looking at some of the other pieces on their team, Josh Okogie showed some good signs. I don't know if he's going to be necessarily in that starting lineup at the end of the season. I think we see a lot of Grayson Allen mixed in there. Maybe, some Keita Bates Diop, even some Yuto Watanabe, at times. It's going to be a lot of variations. Frank Vogel as he tries to figure out this roster. My one concern with this team is they don't have a true point guard on the roster. I can see them in the market for one, come times where the buyout is coming around. But it looks like Devin Booker and Bradley Beal will be doing a lot of ball handling between the two of them. But, it's going to be hard because they probably won't have all three of their main scorers off the court all at the same time. So they're going to have an elite scorer on the court at all times. Frank Vogel, a defensive identity, is going to get these guys to buy into his scheme. It'll be interesting to see Bradley Beal in a different environment. He's been in Washington his entire career. It was the summer of running from the grind. Damian Lillard leaves. Bradley Beal leaves. Shout out across the pond. We got Harry Kane leaving Tottenham. It was a summer that was waited upon for a long time to see a lot of these stars finally making a move to different teams. But I got Phoenix at one, and I think they'll go pretty far in the playoffs, as we'll get into. Griffin, I know you want to talk a little bit about them. They're at year two. What do you have to say about
Yeah,
Phoenix?
I mean, obviously, like I have so much to say about them. They are my team, and I think the only reason I put them at two in comparison to the Nuggets is I think they will kind of coast during the regular season. I think it'll be important for them to get chemistry with the main three guys on the court at the same time, but I do think they're going to try to stagger a lot of maybe one night Book won't play, maybe one night Beal won't play, maybe one night KD won't play. I think they're going to try to keep them healthy for the playoffs. So that's kind of why like I could see them all playing around 65 games this year. And that's kind of why I have them at the two compared to the one. But everything you said is pretty apt. Like I think Okogie, everything I've seen in preseason from him, it seems like his 3 point shot has improved a little bit. So if he's even like a 30, like a league average, like 35% 3 point shooter, I think that could be big. He's probably going to be a lot of the primary defenders on like the Luca types come playoff time. But uh, every report coming out of training camp seems like it's going to be a rotation with that fifth starter between Okogie, Eric Gordon, Yuta Watanabe, and Grayson Allen. They're all provide different sort of things for them, but I think they all contribute in meaningful ways. I think our bench is greatly improved from last season. Guys like again, Okogie, Eric Gordon, Drew Eubanks. I think he's going to be really big off the bench. Utah, Jordan Goodwin, who came over in the Bradley Beal trade. I think he's going to be an underrated and probably, like you were saying, how the Suns need a ball handler. I think he could be that off the bench for them. Also, keep an eye out for a guy like TJ McConnell or something in the trade market. But
Yeah.
I think I do think this team probably needs their kind of holes right now is defensively in the center position because I really like Nurkic on for his offensive game. He's a really great screener, really great passer. He can dribble. He can actually shoot the three, unlike DeAndre Ayton. So I think he works in really well for what the Suns do. But he has cinder blocks for feet on defense. Like I do not see him moving very well. So maybe a lot more Drew Eubanks minutes, maybe even Chimezi Metu. But I'm rambling. I think the Suns will be spectacular this year, but we'll coast a little bit in the regular season.
Yeah, no. Well, like I said, TJ McConnell is going to be a guy I think a lot of teams are looking after. I know Miami Heat fans have talked about him. So we'll see where that goes. And then I got the Nuggets at 2. It's going to be a lot from their role players. What can we see from them? They have a good starting five. Guys know their roles. But, Reggie Jackson, is he going to be that?
I think we lost Liam.
Technical difficulties. Is Reggie Jackson going to be that backup one? Is guys like Peyton Watson going to step up? Justin Holiday step up? Zeke Naji, Julian Strother, Jalen Pickett. There's a lot of guys that they need to step up with, and but nothing's going to be better than the Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. Trio. So I'm not too worried about them come regular season. Now, come to the 3 slot. We have different teams. You got his glorious King James and the Los Angeles Lakers at number 3. Talk a little bit about them, and I'll give my take on the Ja Morant-less Grizzlies for at least the first part of the season.
Well, I'm buying into the Lakers. I think came playoff time last year, they were the second best team in the West, and they played even though the Nuggets did sweep them. It was probably the closest 4-0 series I've ever seen. Like they played them really well, and they had a spectacular offseason. Their additions, um, Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, retaining Rui Hachimura, Max Christie, or bringing Max Christie, whatever.
Yeah.
Christian Wood. I feel like there's a lot of really great depth pieces that they have on this team to pair with LeBron, pair with AD, pair with Austin Reeves. So I'm excited. This team could also make a move. I think D'Angelo Russell is definitely on the trade block for them, and dangling D'Angelo Russell with their picks that they have, I think could land them another quality starter slash fringe all-star player. So I'm really high on the Lakers. I think again the thing that will derail this team, and I think that's kind of with a lot of the contenders this year, is health. LeBron's getting. I mean, let's face it. LeBron 21 league years in the league now. Like
Yeah.
he is like he's a super vet. Like we've never seen this before. It's unprecedented with how much he has been able to play, but like he probably won't play every game. You know what I'm saying? Again, Anthony Davis. I feel like he has kind of combated the narrative that he is Anthony Day to Day Davis a little bit, especially in the playoffs. But like we'll see during a full regular season. I am super high on Austin Reeves, and am excited to see kind of how he develops. But like, how good is he actually? But they're my 3. They're my 3. I'm high on the Lakers. I think they are a championship contender. So
Yeah. I
got the
see
Lakers.
more of a coasting aspect from them, still from like my 5 to 7 range in the standings. Like I said, I have the Memphis Grizzlies at number 3. I understand John Morant is going to be out for part of the season to start, but I still think this team is insanely deep. I mean, especially at the forward position, not the wing, but the front court. They have guys like Steven Adams, Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, Gigi Jackson, Jaren Jackson Jr., uh, Jake LaRavia, Kenny
David
Lofton,
Roddy.
David Roddy, Xavier Tillman. This team is deep when it comes to the big men. They're a physical team that can get after it. And then, you go out there, you get Marcus Smart for really nothing this offseason. For Tyus Jones, but, I think they made a good move there. You have a guy like Derrick Rose to be a mentor out there for Ja Morant when he comes back. You still have, Luke Kennard, who's a deadly three-point shooter. And you have Desmond Bain, who is one of the more underrated guards in the league. Is Zaire Williams maybe going to finally take a step? I think this team is locked and loaded. There'll be a regular season dogs. I wouldn't even be surprised if, Ja Morant, when he comes back, he's going to have that fire in him to compete. I think this team could go as far as the Western Conference Finals this season. I don't know if they are. I think they're a little bit away from championship contention, but I think this team is seriously deep all across the board, a lot of talented players, and I'm excited to see this Grizzlies team this year, even though, Ja Morant will be missing a portion of the start of the season. Griffin,
Yeah.
Sacramento, or do you have any thoughts on the Grizzlies before you get in Sacramento at 4?
Not like anything like beyond what you mentioned, really. Like I'm just lower on them. I think Ja being out for 25 games is not great for their seeding purposes, and I just think the West is so much better this year. Like basically every team got better besides Portland, maybe in the West. I just think it's so much deeper, and missing your possible MVP candidate, superstar point guard, I think is really going to be a hindrance this year. So that's kind of why I'm not super high on them. I think they're probably more in the play-in range for me. But I could see it. I remember a couple years ago when Ja was out, they were still very good when he wasn't
Yeah.
there. So I could see it. I could see it, but like I just think I'm a little higher on everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. Sacramento obviously was a story of last season. They did lose in 7 games to the Warriors, but fantastic. And, what are your thoughts on Sacramento going into this season? A further development of Keegan Murray. It's a bonus effort in all NBA season. De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk. What are your thoughts on the team and the roster as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really like another season of the same continuity, the same guys actually being able to break through and actually making the playoffs. I think these guys will be inspired. I'm really a big believer in Keegan Murray. In Summer League, we saw that it looks like he took kind of a leap. Like he knew, like you saw like the second year guys who like kind of know what they're doing now and they go back to Summer League and they dominate. And like that was exactly what happened with Keegan Murray. I've heard really nothing but great things coming out of their training camp regarding him. So I think if he takes a bigger role in the offense, I think this team, they're not going to be the 2 seed or whatever. With 3 seed or 2 seed were they last year? The 3 seed?
They were the 3 seed.
Yeah, I think they'll take a step back just because of more teams being like aware of what they're running, because it wasn't like like the new Kings were like here have arrived. So I do see them being like a 4 through 7 seed, but I'm a big fan of the continuity, and I think this team could also make a move. And I also think they're the guy they brought over from Europe, Sasha Venskov or whatever.
Yeah.
However you pronounce his name? I think he'll be underrated for them and be kind of a good offseason piece that not a lot of people have talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Kings, probably around a 5 or 6 seed as well, so not too far off.
Mm-hmm.
But I got the Los Angeles Clippers at number 4. It's been a hard team to get behind them because, like, you always think it's their year, especially since it's the Kawhi PG era. But I just think the regular season, they have a team built for it now. Russell Westbrook is, he's in a home that makes sense for him now. And Paul George, Kawhi, can we at least get like 40 or 50 games from these guys? That'd be great. But, now you have a little bit more depth at position. Then you insert Norman Powell, who's going to be one of the best 6 men in the league this year. Kenyon Martin Jr. was an extremely underrated pickup from them. He averaged about 13 points a game for the Houston Rockets last year. Terrence Mann will not be traded for James Harden apparently at any circumstance because that's how high the organization views him. Bones Highland still, he's the third string point guard on that team, but he's a guy that can go out there and get you a couple buckets. Don't know if
Josh
you want to.
Primo.
And then fourth quarter, crypto got my tool in. Nick Batum, I guess. You got Nick Batum out there, Robert Covington, some vets there. Marcus Morris as well. And then I think I love the combination of Ivica Zubac and Mason Plumlee. And you still got some other guys like Musa Diabate and Brandon Boston Jr., who could also break out to be contributors for this team. So, like I said, it's a lot of guys. I think Kawhi, it's going to be very surprising if he's not honed in. This is really the last chance that this team has in terms of cap space and how everything works, because it's going to be like a little grim if they can't do something going into the new stadium in this. I think, is it next season? I think it might be
next season.
Next season in the new stadium. So let's hope that they can turn it around. And I got a little bit of faith in them. I don't know about you, Griffin. What do you think about the Clippers?
I've lost all my faith. Like, you need to show it to me at this point. Like, it's been 4 years now of like the same sort of bullshit. Like, show me 3 consistent months that you guys can, like, PG and Kawhi will be on the court at the same time. Just show me like any sort of consistency for a prolonged period of time. Like, you can't limp into the playoffs having played with your best guys, like having played 15 games combined together during a season. Like, I just don't think that's a recipe for success. I don't really disagree with anything you really said though. Like, their role guys are really, really solid, and Ty Lue always has them playing hard. And I am a believer of Westbrook on this team, and I think that will propel them to be better than they were in years past, regular season wise. Um, but I would still just be like, I haven't really seen the consistency that I really need to from them to be able to put my faith in them. I'd rather be wrong and take the under then on them than try to believe in them again after so many years and be like high on them.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. I got some irrational faith, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But NBA Finals predictions, you hinted at some teams earlier. The Nuggets, could they repeat? The Bucks and the Celtics, who's making it out of them, or is there a surprise team? Who do you got coming out of the West, the East, and who's winning it?
I have Suns Bucks, or rematch of the 2021 finals, and I have the Suns in six. I think the Suns match up really well against a hypothetical Bucks matchup this year. I think, especially, Devin Booker averaged 26 against the Bucks in the finals, and when you take away his primary defender in Drew Holiday, what that would mean, I think that really, like, who is guarding Bradley Beal? Who is guarding D Book when in a hypotheticals finals matchup against the Bucks? So that's kind of why I have the Suns in six. I think Giannis is a generational enough player, and that duo with Dame is enough to get them 2 games. But I'm a believer in the Suns this year, and I'm gonna say Suns in six.
So I have the Suns additionally making out of the West, which we'll get into one of my picks later. But I also have the Celtics being the team making it out of the East. I think the Drew Holiday Porzingis edition is more valuable than the Damian Lillard edition to the Bucks, and I have the Celtics winning in 7 games. I think they go all out in this season. Al Horford, it's going to be a different situation. They paid so much money to Jaylen Brown. It's going to be impossible for them to retain, the Derek Whites and the Drew Holidays and the Porzingis with the new cap space rules. I think they go all out this season. They win a chip, and then there's going to be some changes around there in Boston. I think they'll keep those core 2 guys, but so lethal. You have that ball handler. We thought it'd be Malcolm Brogdon, but like we should have expected that. Malcolm Brogdon can't truly raise that team as a starting point guard on a championship team. Now you have a guy who's been a starting point guard on a championship team not too long ago in Drew Holiday, who's a lockdown defender. He can make some shots when it matters. And Porzingis has been moving different in the preseason. Seems like a guy who was when he was in New York was an all-star starter for Porzingis. And if they can get a shade of that, he can really change this team around. My only concerns are, are you going to see guys like Tatum and Brown not show up like they've done in the past? The jokes are real though. Like, is Jaylen Brown going to get embarrassed with his left hand? Like, it's serious. But I think they have guys that they can fill in those roles. If Jaylen Brown isn't doing well, they can bring on Derek White and some other guys. I think it's a talented roster. I think they get it done. Number 7 games, Celtics raise the banner. So let's dive into our award predictions. Griffin, I had the Suns and Celtics in the finals, and you got a Celtic winning the MVP. It's Jason Tatum with his first of his career. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about the Celtics being my number one in the East. I'm a big believer in Jason Tatum, and I think kind of changing his shot selection and having more talent around him will be able to free him up a little more and allow him to cement himself as a top 5 player in the league and win the MVP this year. So I'm a big believer in Jason Tatum. Um, I kind of I'm kind of in love with your pick for multiple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think going back to I think this MVP is kind of difficult because I think there's going to be a lot of voter fatigue from Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, and I think Giannis and Jokic especially are like the unquestioned top 2 players in the league right now. So I couldn't see either of them winning. So to me, it was going to be an outsider. I couldn't see it being Luca because I just don't think the Mavericks are going to be very good this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think team performance is going to play into that. And a lot of people are kind of hip to the heliocentric offense that they play. And it's like, of course, Luca's going to have the numbers he's going to put up when he has the ball in his hands, like 40% of the game. So I'm more of the Jason Tatum camp, but I might. These aren't my final predictions. They will go up on Twitter, but I'm kind of in love with your pick. Talk me through it, Devin Booker.
Yeah. I mean, hey, go Griffin to fall, Griffin R Winter on X, Twitter, whatever you want to
I'm
call it.
throw up the
But
X,
hey,
baby.
Devin Booker, I think he's going to win MVP. And here's one of the main reasons why. I think in years past, Devin Booker, let's say, put up 27 points per game. What else was he really doing too much besides in stretches? He'd be a playmaker in stretches, or, he gives rebounds. Now he's going to be looked at as the primary ball handler on
Point
this,
book.
point book on this Phoenix team. You take away Chris Paul, who's been, a top assist.
Bless you.
A top assist man throughout his career, and now he's off to Golden State. Devin Booker now being able to be the ball handler. I think he's going to be a guy that can get, north of 7 assists a game. I think 7 to 7.5. He's going to be looked upon to be a lot. And he's got a lot of shooters around him. Eric Gordon, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Yuta Watanabe. You name it. He's got a lot of guys to dish the rock to. And he's going to have a lot of attention drawn on him. And I think he's going to be the number one option on this team. I think, I'm expecting, like a 28 point per game season where Book's putting up like 28, like 5 and 7, or like 28, 5 and like 6.5. And, he's going to win MVP in my eyes, and would not be surprised to see it. I know you want to chime in on it, Griffin. So what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm chomping at the bit here. Like the around Phoenix, the kind of the love that he doesn't receive nationally, I think could be subverted when if he's the primary ball handler, which he's going to be. In stretches when Chris Paul was out, he was incredible as point book, and I think like that will just propel him to like again 28 points probably. You made excellent points. So many shooters around him. I think there's kind of Vogel's could put an emphasis on getting rebounds, the guards getting rebounds and the importance of that. I think also underrated aspect of the Suns this year is going to be their pace. Their pace is going to be so much quicker because old head Chris Paul is not there, so they can run and gun. And I think they're going to be putting up more like a higher frequency of shots. So I'm completely on board, and I might change my MVP pick. I'm talking myself into it because I don't think it's going to be someone who's won it before this year. I think that's
Yeah.
the real
Hey,
intriguing thing this year. I think it's going to be someone who's never won it.
Well, I think we're both in on that. And something else we are both in on is Rookie of the Year. Griffin, talk a little bit about your man, Victor Wembanyama.
I mean, have we seen his highlights, guys? Like, did we watch his preseason games? Like, it's otherworldly. This like slender man running down the court so quickly, able to dunk over anything, has an 8 foot long wingspan, can hit it from three, can dribble, is like a really great defensive player. I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. I think the voters will be wowed by just the enigma that is Victor Wembanyama. There are really great contenders, though. I think Chet, obviously, like if he has a big year in OKC, he could win Rookie of the Year. And Scoot in Portland, he doesn't really have anybody he really needs to defer to there, and he can really get his. So there's a lot of great rookies this year to watch, but I think Victor Wembanyama is just such a fucking freak specimen that he'll be able to capture the voters' hearts and minds. So
Yeah.
I'm pro Victor Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I need to say much. It's just,
Generational talent.
there's going to be a lot of guys that like would have won it in other years that are just going to be dominating this season. Well, I'm going to say dominating, but going to be doing very well. Like, a Scoot, you name it. I think Brandon Miller.
Yeah, even like a Thompson twin.
Yeah, even the Thompson
Yeah.
twins, even like people hating on Brandon Miller, I think he's going to be good this season. I want to see what Anthony Black does. I'll be having my eyes all around the rookie class because it'll be
Bilal
pretty easy.
Coulibaly, tap in.
He's gonna be another god, but Victor Wembanyama highlights will be any and everywhere across our feed. So gonna have to look at the other guys, give him some respect. Another pick we both agree on because he was my pick last year and just missed out on it. It was kind of a long shot last year, actually, and he came along. It's Evan Mobley from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Defensive Player of the Year. I have Cleveland as my conference champions, so it's reflected in my Defensive Player of the Year pick. I think, he's so versatile, not only as a dominant paint defender, but he can move out with his length. He's going to be so crucial for this team that, has two dominant guards that kind of struggle on the defensive end. Bring in, obviously not bring in, but introducing Evan Mobley, who's can kind of solve all those problems. He, is able to keep that defensive rating where it is. And, they're dominant defensively when he's on the court. And I think, he's the guy. He can get steals, he can get blocks, and he's going to have the metrics to back it up. Griffin, I mean, anything else to add on the pick?
Not really. I'm a big pro Evan Mobley. I love that pick last year. I don't really remember who it was, but I'll say I was on the same wavelength. I think he not only proved that he's like belongs in this league, but he's an expert defensive player last year, and I think he'll just continue that same trajectory and development. Like I think really the sky's the limit for Evan Mobley. So I'm a believer.
Yeah, awesome. Dive into Sixth Man of the Year. We split up here. You got Emmanuel Quickly from the New York Knicks. I mean, a microwave scorer to say the least. Talk a little bit about Quickly and his role with the Knicks.
Yeah, I just think he can thrive coming off the bench, scoring like you said. Like I really just I'm high in the Knicks. I have them as my 4 seed, so I think that will kind of play into it too. I think also big market in New York. I think that's kind of why I would lean for him to be 6 man. But also like I really do like him as a player. He's a really solid scorer, so it's kind of where my head's at for 6 man of the year.
Yeah, no, I mean he was a runner-up last season and went to Brogdon, but Brogdon's not going to be, in that position again this year. So, I saw it live. This guy's got a heater on him, and no disrespect to him. I, however, have another guy that's got a microwave torch, and that's Cam Thomas. I think Brooklyn can probably sneak into the 7th, 8th seed this year. Like what I see from Mikal and the other guys. Ben Simmons emergence tour, we'll see. I think he'll be solid. He won't be anywhere near what he's been in the past, but a good contributor. But Cam Thomas is going to come in. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this guy does like a Tyler Hero and he averages 20 a night, off the bench and wins the 6th Man of the Year. I'm really interested to see. Hopefully, Jacques Vaughn and them they keep playing him because there's times where he get DNPs last season, and he can really be impactful to this Brooklyn team if they let him cook. Let Cam Thomas cook. he's going to put up points, and that's what this team needs because they do have a lot of defensive guys on that team as well. Nicholas Claxton, Dorian Finney-Smith, so on and so forth. So let Cam Thomas cook. That's the message for the season for the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, you got any thoughts on Cam
I'm
Thomas?
I mean, I love him as a scorer. Like he is almost, I wouldn't say generational, but he's a really fucking talented scorer. Like, and you mentioned the reason why I wouldn't have him as my six man of the year pick because after the big KD, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson trade happened, like his minutes plummeted. He got DNPs. Like, I'm just concerned that he won't play enough to be able to get that production that he'll need to get the momentum to be a six man of the year. But I love the pick. If he plays, 82 games or damn near there, like I could see that being a good pick.
Yeah, no. Well, unfortunately, in this day and age, you can't expect anyone to play 82 games. If you get 70 games,
Yeah,
it's probably
70.
best. But
Yeah.
awesome. Coach of the year. You actually have a guy who didn't even finish amongst your top 4 teams in the West. But talk a little bit about you. I don't even want to butcher his name.
I
So
think it's Mark Dagnall.
yeah.
That's how I'm going to say it. I'm really high on the Thunder. I know they're not in my top 4, but they're definitely going to be in my top 6 for this upcoming season. I think they take a leap. Really high on Shea, really high on Giddy, really high on Chet, really high on J Dub. That guy that they brought over from overseas, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. But I think he was a EuroLeague MVP that they're actually
Mhm.
bringing over now. I think he'll contribute off the bench. Lou Dort, Kenrich Williams. I'm just such a big fan of this team. So I think kind of similar to how the Kings were treated last year with or who was their coach? Mike
Uh,
Brown. Mike Brown. But kind of how
Brown.
Mike Brown got just based on the leap that team took. I think Mark Dagnall will get the same kind of recognition this year with the Thunder.
Yeah. Is it an Usman Jang breakout season?
God, I only hope because he was one of my favorites from that draft class. This could be a Poku Usman Jang breakout season. Everybody get excited.
I will bet money Poku does not break out, but I would love
Bro,
to
he
see
looked good last year before he got
what
injured.
Casey Wallace starts cooking up because
Oh, he's a dog. He's a dog.
he's one of my favorite guys in that class, Mini Drew Holiday. I got
Mhm.
JB Bickerstaff. I mean, I don't need to say too much about the Cavs because I've talked about them already. I think I don't know how great of a coach he truly is, but I think it's kind of like making an NFL example. It's like the Zach Taylor example. Like he's not really one of the best coaches in the league, but he just led a really talented roster to a Super Bowl. And I see the Cavs making a pretty far run in the playoffs. So I mean, I know that's not reflected, but I think best regular season record. I could even see them having the best regular season record overall. I think they win north of 60 games this coming season. So I got the Cavs and JB Bickerstaff being coach of the year. Most improved player. I mean, Pool Party, man, he's going to be the hot pick. He's actually not even the betting favorite, funny enough. But talk a little bit about Jordan Poole, Griff.
I mean, I think just getting out of that toxic environment in Golden State is going to be good for Jordan. He really doesn't need to defer to anybody. Like Kyle Kuzma and Jordan Poole can just be the light skin killers that they need in DC. And I think he will. I think he'll thrive. I think everything I've heard based off Jordan Poole, like, his reaction of leaving sounds like he'll be ready and primed for this opportunity and try to make a statement that, like, he's not a guy who really deserved a lot of the slander that he got last year. So I'm high on Jordan Poole in Washington. So he's my pick for most improved.
Yeah, like 43% of the field from like 25 shots a game, most definitely. Um,
Yeah.
I got Shaden Sharp. I mean, this is a team that's not going to really be focused on winning too much this year. I think DeAndre Ayton could even be a sneaky pick. I think a couple of those guys on that Portland team. I know you're looking at it, Griff, but he's
Oh
going to get
no. Oh
he's going to
no.
get he's going to get so many looks though. It's not even like how good he is, but like the
Yeah.
amount of looks he's going to get. It's
The,
like
the box score watchers will fuck with him, but the people who actually watch the games will want to kill themselves. That's a
yeah,
guarantee. It's
the
a
box score.
guarantee.
It's the box score watchers though. But I think Shaden Sharp, he really came on at the end of last season. I think he is going to be nasty. Him and Scoot are going to be the future of this team. Simon's like, unfortunately, he's a 6-man guy for them.
Mhm.
He could probably get moved by the deadline. I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing too well for them because they're probably going to want to tank. They're waiting for Cooper Flag when eventually he comes out.
Oh,
But Shaden Sharp, I think he's going to be a guy that he will definitely be in that top finalist. But I got him winning the Most Improved Player of the Year. And then, yeah, dark horse team, Griffin. I know a team that you think is going to play far better than they did last season, or make the playoffs. You got two in the West.
I picked two in the West. Yeah, I picked the Pelicans and the Thunder, who I previously mentioned with Mark Dagnall. So I won't rehash a lot of what I said. I'm a big believer in Shea, but with the Pelicans more specifically, I think it was really a disappointing year last year after, especially how they played the Suns in the playoffs 2 years ago, and I think with Zion hopefully being able to play majority of the games that they will definitely be able to go back and make the playoffs again. I think Brandon Ingram is still super solid. So is CJ McCollum. They have guys like Jose Alvarado. I just think they'll be solid. So I'm high on the Pelicans this year. I think bare minimum play-in team, but I think they will make the playoffs probably.
Yeah, I got another team in the West. I think probably about a 9 seed. They'll get in that play-in tournament, kind of like what OKC did this past year. I got the Houston Rockets. I know a lot of people hated on what they did this offseason with paying Fred VanVleet so much money and Dylan Brooks, but people don't understand it's really kind of like the CBA and that they kind of had to pay someone money because
Mm-hmm.
of how it works. But I think they have a really talented roster. You get rid of kind of locker room cancers or guys that you don't need, and Josh Christopher. They just got rid of Kevin Porter Jr. yesterday. Now you have guys like Men Thompson, Jalen Green, like I said, Fred Van Vliet. I think they got Alperen Sengun. There's a lot of really talented guys on this team. And I think Ime Adoku is the perfect guy to lead this roster. They needed some, people are going to overlook them because of, how much stuff was messed up over there. If like they're playing AAU basketball last season, but, they got rid of some guys. I think they got the right team ahead of them. Cam Whitmore looking like one of the steals of the draft. I'm waiting to see more from, Tari Eason.
Jabari Smith, breakout
Yeah,
year.
Jabari Smith. Like I said, I didn't even name all their guys. I think they have a really talented roster. Suns legend Jock Lawndale goes over there. Should be some good backup center.
The GOAT. Sorry, one sec. The audio went out. I don't know why.
What
Oh.
do you think about Houston?
Oh, I can hear you now. Oh, I'm really high on Houston. I just think there's so many good teams in the West that I could see them not making the play-in. I like Fred Van Vliet a lot, and I think Dylan Brooks is, regardless of all the slander that he got, he is a quality NBA player. And so is Jock Landale, to be honest. He was really good for the Suns last year, underrated. So I think they will be good. Speaking of locker room cancer, I think Ime Udoka will be good for them. So I do like this pick. I just don't think they will make it as far as you're saying. Like they'll be a really fun league pass team.
Yeah.
Maybe even take the over on the wins. Just I wouldn't say play in team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a little different that process there. But speaking of the flip flop side of that, we got the flop teams, a team that people think is going to do well or just going to do a lot worse than they did last year. I mean, you got a pretty consensus pick. You got the Dallas Mavericks, Griffin. I mean, they brought back Kyrie. They go and get Derek Lively in the draft. Instead of maybe searching for options, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Talk about Dallas because I think they're still going to be competitive. I mean, Luka and Kyrie are still going to put up points, but I want to hear about your hesitation.
Yeah, regardless of my hating of like Luca and how they play, because I think it's just like it's unethical hoops. Like the foul baiting, the heliocentric offense, I think is just not good. And I think teams are just so much more well-rounded this year, especially in the West, that I think that this team has obvious holes. They're starting. Are they starting two rookies this year? They're starting. Is Derek Lively going to start? And
Yeah,
I saw Olivier Maxey and Prosper was also going to start for them. Like it's just a
I,
lot of
I like
guys
him.
who are unproven. Like I do like him, like no doubt, but I think again unproven. I think Kyrie and Luca, I don't really see it as like a dynamic duo like you would say Giannis and Lillard is or Katie and Book is. Like I just don't think they complement each other really well at all. So I'm very down on them. I'm saying like 9, 10 seed or they miss the playoffs again.
Well, okay. I think there's two extremes. They could be very bad like that, but you could also see them be a fourth seed. Like I know that's crazy to say, but like, they got Grant Williams, a solid role player, like you said, a Maximus Prosper, they still got Tim Hardaway, Jaden Hardy, who are microwave guys off the bench. Um, Rashawn Holmes, uh, Josh Green still.
Monte Exum.
I think they could still be solid. It's all depending on, it's going to be how big of a load and can Kyrie, really be fully into it for a season. I mean, I feel like it's been a while since we've seen kind of a locked in Kyrie, and they can get that. Like this team's going to be special. I mean, they should both be 25-point per game scorers. And what can Lively do? As a rookie, is he going to be able to do what they need, which is rim
I
run
mean,
and
he just needs to be a rim runner, dunk, block shots. And I think he can do that, but again, just not super high on the overall core.
yeah, we'll see. It's better than Christian Wood, though. I'm glad that they
Yeah.
got a guy that fits more their system. For me, I got the New York Knicks. I think the New York Knicks are just going to New York Nick. I understand, they won a playoff series last year against the Cavs, but I think this is the last year of Tom Thibodeau. I feel like this team is going to have to see some changes. I'm not a big RJ Barrett guy. My kind of idea is he would have broken out at this point already. So, what's the faith in there? They have a lot of good role players, but like, Julius Randle's inconsistent at times. And like, I don't think Jalen Brunson can truly pull them out of the rut. So, like, that's my thoughts of them. They make the playoffs, but I can see them getting swept in the first round. And like, it's just tough. I think this has to be the last season for Tom Thibodeau on the Knicks because there needs to be a change of direction. People need to want to come play in New York, and it just hasn't been like that. I mean, Jalen Brunson's was more of a, his dad's on the staff or whatever, but like, and no one thought he was going to be what he is. But, that's my thoughts. I have the New York Knicks. I mean, I know you're semi high on them, but like, I mean, you
I
can see
mean,
it.
I don't really disagree. I just I don't like Thibodeau really either as a coach. But I do like Josh Hart, like the Villanova like trio that they have. I'm just like that is such like there's so much solid NBA player that can come from them, and
Yeah.
I think they are a team that you should be looking out for. Like as trade targets. Like you package RJ Barrett and like all their picks that they have, you can get like a real superstar on there with them. So that's kind of some of my mentality too, because I do think they can't kind of go into the playoffs with the roster that they have now if they expect to do
Okay.
better than they have. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where a lot of my mentality lies with them.
Yeah. Shout out number 100 himself, Mitchell Robinson, who is
Maybe this is a Kai Jones landing spot.
hey, hey, you've seen the
Did you listen to
highlights,
a
bro.
song?
You've seen yeah, I've heard the song. You've seen the
Dude, he's
highlights, bro.
actually cold. He's actually
He's
cold.
actually cold when I watch him.
RTBMB and Kai Jones.
That is, and Mr. B sponsoring them, like that is like the most interesting
Poverty franchise, bro.
of all time. I mean, hey, the NBA, it's interesting. We're excited to see how it's going. Like I said, you can follow us on Twitter. We'll both be very active throughout the season, sharing thoughts. We'll be coming back, with the episode, in the near future, talking some more, reactions. How's Wemby doing? How's Scoot doing? How's the Suns looking? What team's looking bad, so on and so forth. We're excited to bring it to you. But this has been Coast to Coast Podcast, signing out. Peace.